All you need to worry about is conversion.
Only say what you actually can do and then do it.
I have some of the most successful people return my phone call within 24, 48 hours.
Have you ever been frustrated at, gosh, I cannot find leads anywhere. Why is this so hard to find clients for my business? Well, this is the deal, friends, is that most of the time you're just overlooking what is exactly right underneath your nose. And today we're going to break it down on how easy it is to find qualified leads that are sitting right there waiting for you to sell to them. And I'm doing this with my friend Jennifer Frye with Appreciated Assets. So let's go ahead and jump in. Independence isn't just about where you go. It's about how well you live when you get there. That's why I am genuinely excited about Indie Stove, because it completely changes what outdoor and off-grid cooking looks like. Indie Stove is an ultra-portable, collapsible stove that fits basically anywhere, but performs like a real kitchen tool. It heats up in minutes, holds up in wind, rain, and rugged terrain, and works with multiple fuel sources, propane, butane, or wood pellets. So you're never limited by where you are and what's available. But here's where it gets fun. This isn't just about boiling water. With Indie Stove's modular accessories, you can actually cook. The workspace stack gives you sturdy side sleeves, so your cookware, ingredients, and tools are right there when you need them most. No balancing acts, no chaos. The skewer stack lets you grill kebabs, vegetables, or skewered meals evenly with non-sag skewers designed for real heat control. And yes, people are baking chocolate chip cookies off the grid. Fresh cookies in the middle of nowhere. That is not survival, that's luxury. Indie Stove is built for people who want freedom without giving up quality. Real meals, real control, real independence. Whether you're camping, overlanding, prepping for emergencies, or just choosing a life that isn't tied to outlets and crowded kitchens. And because you're a Revenue Rascals listener, you get something extra. Use code Revenue Rascals at checkout and you'll receive a free workspace stack with your purchase of a stove, valued at $120. That's Revenue Rascals at indiestove.com. Because independence should taste incredible. Hello, Rascals. I am so excited to talk to my friend Jennifer Frye today. She's with Appreciated Assets, and we are going to talk about lead gen and how everything is right underneath your nose for you to find and talk and to close those clients. But most of the time, people miss where these opportunities are. So I'm excited to talk about lead gen today, which is always a hot topic. Jennifer, how are you?
I'm so good. Anytime I get to spend an hour with you, I'm here for it.
Oh, I'm here for it. So right before, behind the scenes, everyone listening, before we were kicking off this episode, we were talking about how absolutely bizarre and weird winter is this year. I live in Park City and it was 55 and sunny and I was wearing a tank top yesterday in literally February, which just blows my mind. And Jennifer, you're in South or North Carolina?
I'm in South Carolina, in Charleston.
Okay, South Carolina, in Charleston. So tell us about the lockdown after a half an inch of snow.
Well, I grew up in Boston. I moved here from New York City. Like, I know snow and I'm used to it, but they don't have the infrastructure here. So this year, for the second year in a row, we got a snowstorm. This one was like less than half an inch, but it was still so fun because the whole weekend we were just kind of waiting for it to come and excited about it. And our calendars were cleared because we don't have the infrastructure here. We don't have salt trucks. We don't have plows. So you just stay home if it snows, if it's icy. And I was telling you before we started, I was like, it's just amazing to have your calendar cleared and on this like forced lockdown, just how nice it is to be home for a few days and just, focus on all the things that you don't get to do so much when your calendar is jam-packed.
So full. Oh my gosh. I can relate to that so much as an extrovert. And my husband always is like, Michelle, take stuff off our calendar, take stuff off our calendar. And I'm like, but I want to go have fun. But the weather can force you to actually hit the reset button. And as a high performer, which both of us are, I think that sometimes it feels good when it's forced on us. And it's like, oh, my desk is clear. My life is clear. I got to hang out and play board games with my kids, like all the things. So, well, I'm glad you're entering this week with a clear desk and a clear mind, Jennifer. That feels good.
So good.
All right, let's talk about the hot topic that everybody always wants to chit chat about, which is lead gen. And for everybody listening right now, this is the deal. There's multiple ways you can generate leads. You can cold call, you can email, you can work your network, you can use social media, you can do paid ads, you can hire a BDR or an SDR team, you can hire an agency to do it. The options are literally endless. But something that I've noticed over the last decade of teaching sales is that people overthink lead gen. Like really overthink it and worry so much about it, which is kind of like a funny thing to talk about. So before we jump into all of the places leads are just hiding in your atmosphere and your world right now, would you agree, Jen, that people just, it's a funny thing. It's like they overthink it. It becomes a super stressful thing.
Yeah, they overthink it and they overplan, and then they want this perfect strategy in place before they do anything. And it's really just procrastination because for the most part, it's uncomfortable for a lot of people. So one of the things I think we're going to really focus in on today is how to make it less painful, less uncomfortable. I'm sharing with all of you guys a lead finder PDF that we've developed to show you all of the places already in your life, in your ecosystem, that exist that you are probably not capitalizing on.
So there's some main categories we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about lists, social media, events, alumni organizations, the old-fashioned way, and your warm network. And we're going to go through each of these together with Jennifer right now. And my goal for this episode is after you're listening to this, go grab her lead finder so that you have it in front of you and make a goal to add a certain amount of leads underneath each category. And that's a great place to start. And that is a great place to take some action and to avoid the procrastination. So where I want to start right now is your warm network. And the reason why I want to start in warm network is my episode that drops tomorrow, actually, as we're recording this, so early February, is about how awkward it can be to work your warm network, where it's like you're kind of friends, you're connected. How do you ask for the referrals? How do you know if they could be your client? Like a lot of people overthink that. So I think the two tie together really, really well. So let's talk about, Jennifer, your warm network and where people should be looking within that for business opportunities.
Okay, so I'm going to start with this mindset shift that I like to present to people. You're afraid to tell people what you do. You're afraid to reach out, or what are they going to think? What are they going to say? But here's the thing. If you know you can help people, you know you have a service that will change lives, it's your responsibility to reach out and let people know about it. It's your responsibility to let them know, give them the information. What they do with it from there is really on them. But if you know you can help people, it's really your duty to reach out. If not, you're doing them a disservice. But warm network is a funny thing because you assume your people know what you do. And I have a funny story. I was at a birthday dinner for one of my closest friends. We'd been friends for well over a decade. All the big, life events were together. And after dinner, she says, "What do you do? Like medical sales, right?" And I was like, "What? Like, no, no. So we assume that people know what we do because I make Facebook posts or I put up something on LinkedIn. But most of the time, people are too busy with their own stuff that they don't realize. Now, this is a friend that there's no crossover. Like what she does, my service would never be right for. But she probably knows people. And how many people does she know that over the years may have said something or talked about something that there could have been a connection, right? So don't assume that people know in your warm network what you do. Don't assume that they know who to connect you with. Don't assume that they know how you help people. They probably don't.
Yeah, assume that they don't, especially with anything service related. I feel like if you sell a product, if you're selling a thingamajigger, right, it's actually easier for people to understand what you do. But when it comes to professional services like you and I have, I do think that you have to be really clear on who you help and why and who's the perfect fit. And I also want to talk, so your warm network can be former colleagues, clients, friends, community. I mean, it goes all over the place. But I think what's important to understand is that if you can't give them the language to refer you, or to connect you, like I always say, it's like there's the referrals, but there's also just connections. Like, oh, I don't really know anybody specifically, but I think that you'd get along really well with X, Y, and Z. I have booked half of my podcast guests from people saying, hey, Michelle, I think this person would be great on your show. Love what you're doing, right? And so there's all of these different ways to connect. So I love that mindset shift of don't be afraid to talk about what you do. And one caveat I'd add to that is ask them what they do so it doesn't feel one-sided, because every time conversations are one-sided is when you get the ick in your tummy. Would you agree, Jennifer?
Totally. How can you add value to those conversations? That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. So friends, go make your list of warm network. Okay, we're going to move on over to old fashioned. And old fashioned actually cracks me up right now because I'm going to tell you a funny story. So underneath in your lead tracker, it lists lead finder, it lists business cards. Okay, so we're about the same age. And oh my gosh, so I got my house professionally organized by a friend that was starting an organization business recently. And she was doing my office and she pulls out literally like 3,000 business cards out of these old folders that I had. And oh my gosh, that's so funny. And she's like, Michelle, what do you want me to do with these? And I look at them and I'm like, some of them are literally 20 years old, Jennifer. I was like, they may or may not be relevant, but I did take a scan to see if there was anybody I had forgotten about, which was really important. So the old-fashioned way is there still are great old-fashioned ways. So business cards, book of lists. Like I love book of lists. Why do people not use those that much? They're amazing. And businesses that you know and support. And I like the businesses that you know and you support. I get clients all the time from people that I actually purchase from, because I'll be like, hey, by the way, I noticed this in the sales process and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. If I can ever be of assistance, please let me know. I love your product XYZ. So it can feel really natural. But Jennifer, what do you think the hardest part is for people when it comes to this old-fashioned way of finding leads that are right underneath your nose?
I think we just make assumptions, first of all. I think it feels really clunky. So I'll tell you, this weekend when I was cleaning out my desk, I made another pile of business cards. I threw out all the ones that are already in my CRM because I don't need to hold on to those. But then I was like, oh gosh, this was in a purse and this one I never connected with. And this. So then I was like, oh God, do I have to send these photos to my assistant? And then they put them in. That feels so clunky. So then I started looking at how to automate this. And there's so many solutions. There, you could scan a business card and it automatically goes into your CRM or your phone or whatever. Find solutions. We have so much available to us now to automate these things that feel really clunky and really laborious, and it really doesn't have to be like that. The other reason I like them is because what's the harm in reaching out to someone and saying, hey, it's snowing. I cleaned out my desk this weekend and I came across your card and I cannot believe we never connected. This is crazy. You ended up in a pocket and I never reached out. I would love to fix that. Here's my calendar link. I would love to find a time to connect and learn about what's new with you, because I'm sure there's quite a bit since we last met.
Super smooth, authentic, non-salesy. I mean, and sometimes I feel like people just need to be themselves. Just reach out and be yourself. Like literally what you just said is so natural. I feel like if we were just in a regular conversation, you would have said the same thing to somebody at an event. So it feels authentic. It's on brand, although it's not personalized necessarily to that person other than the fact that, hey, you ended up in my pocket. It feels personal because you're sharing something about yourself in the communication. So I really love that. And I think the lesson to everybody is just talk like yourself. That will win. I love that. Okay, so now we have events, and I love events. I think events are some of the best investment that people can make in growing their business. And when we're talking about events, it's speaking engagements, which could be podcast interviews, friends. It can be on stages. It can be paid or not paid. You can go to trade shows, expos. You can go to networking events, charity events. I mean, events are the biggest bang for your buck, in my opinion. Would you agree, Jennifer?
Yes. And now the access that we have to both virtual and in-person events makes all the difference. And you and I reconnected at an event last fall after we've known each other for years and years, but had fallen out of touch. And I don't know that this conversation would have happened if we hadn't both been in that room. I'm so grateful that it did.
Yes, me too.
But understanding that putting yourself in the right rooms will change your life, will change the trajectory of your business and your life.
100%. Like the 5 people you spend the most time with is the reflection of where you're going. And, I'm blanking on the book right now. It'll come to me, but it's a very famous author, and he was talking about how your environment matters so much. And people will argue till they're blue in the face with him over this, where it's like, you can overcome your environment, blah, blah, blah. And it's not that you can't overcome it, but it is definitely an uphill battle. So if you can change who you're surrounded by, then you change the trajectory of your life and your business. And I think it's really important to not ignore this and just brush it underneath the rug.
I just heard something. I love this. I will find out so you can put it in the notes so you can source this. But that if you are near, in vicinity, I think they said 25 feet of a high performer, your performance will increase by 15%. And if you are in the same vicinity of a low performer, your performance will drop by 30%. If that isn't enough to tell you to be very intentional about where and with whom you spend your time, I don't know what is.
Yes, that is so profound. I really am glad you shared that stat.
I'll find the source on it, but I was floored when I heard that. Making sure that you are at the right events, not just anything, right? But the right events. And I've noticed that, so I want to address that also. As my business has grown, as my ICP has evolved and elevated, the rooms that I once networked in are no longer the right rooms for me to spend time in. And it's not because there's anything wrong with those rooms. They absolutely got me to where I am, but they will not get me to where I'm looking to go. And so I can, out of sheer loyalty, decide to keep putting my time and effort there, or I can transition to the rooms that will get me there.
Yeah. And I think the transition, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in, like, you get to a certain level and then it's time to take yourself to the next level. Things that I used to say yes to 5 years ago in business, I would absolutely not say yes to now, because it's all about time and energy. And I have to maximize my time and energy for impact. A great example is I was recently asked to coach inside of a paid coaching program around sales and revenue growth, et cetera. I charge a fee for that, and it's a substantial fee. And this woman just takes volunteers instead of paying them. And I just declined. I'm like, no, why would I coach your paying clients for free? That doesn't make any sense. I've had guest coaches in my program, and just for the integrity of the program and the quality of the people that I want to bring in, I pay them all. Like, you have to pay them. And so I just think it's really, really interesting about and like before 5 years ago or 6 years ago, maybe I would have bent on it and been like, well, I get to get in front of like 2,000 people who are engaged in building businesses. But for me, that's not enough anymore. And so I think that is a really like great reflection that you can have in your life. And it's also like, yeah, I'm looking at the attendee list of events before I go. I'm going to make sure I am in the right room. And if I'm not, I'm going to decline going or, pass my ticket off to somebody else who would be better served. So it's just like, it's a natural evolution and you can't hold yourself back like through not wanting to move forward and grow.
1,000%.
Okay, so then the next one is lists. And I think lists are probably the hardest for people because it's truly like it's cold in a lot of ways unless they've opted in through a marketing funnel. So if somebody has opted in through your marketing funnel and they're on your email list or inside your CRM, I mean, they are an MQL. They are ready to be marketed to, which is huge. But so to me, that's the easier side of the lead gen. The harder side is if you take spreadsheets or lists that you've purchased and trying to figure out what to do with them. And Jennifer, I wanted you to tie in what Appreciated Asset does at this point as well to help people, especially when it comes to reaching out to people outside of where you can find them yourself.
Okay, so first I will say this, don't buy lists.
There we go.
Don't. Work with us, work with yourself. Don't buy lists. They are 99% of the time absolute garbage. And where there might be like you're combing through to find a needle in a haystack, they're not. They're about volume. They're not about quality. Okay. They're about quantity. When we talk about lists though, think about lists of top 10 best companies to work for, top 10 fastest growing companies, top 10 best companies for working women. Those would be the kind of lists to look at. But then also something as granular as going into like your local business journal usually publishes a book of lists. Ours does, and it's amazing. And it gives you all kinds of updated information about those sorts of things, fastest growing companies, new companies that have relocated here, all that. The way we help our clients, though, we provide a concierge level done for you appointment setting service. And the first piece of that is identifying who that ICP is and creating a prospect wish list. But what's really cool now with AI is we have the ability to see who in your ICP is actually looking for you by service. So we can identify if someone is looking for, say, a sales coach. Who is looking for a sales coach that is in a business that is over this revenue, in these locations, in these industries, and the decision maker has these titles. And then if we know that 2% of your ICP is in the market to buy your service, we can change our strategy from calling 100 people to reach those two to now only calling that 2%. We can identify who is in that 2% and we just call them.
Yeah, it's powerful and anybody who knows lead gen is going to know how powerful that is. But intent is a key factor in conversion. So up to this point, any cold outreach you have is you're just matching to your ICP. You're like, this is the people that I want to sell to, but without knowing if they need you, right? And so intent really changes the game. And I've never been a volume over quality kind of person. I've always led with quality. So what I like about this is that it's quality and it's intentful research. It's intentful outreach. It's intentful matchmaking. And it makes a really big difference in the ability for you to book these sales calls for your clients to be able to have this conversation with. So I think that this is one of those cases where like AI is like truly changing the game and it's really exciting.
And I looked for 2 years to find an AI solution. You got to have AI in your business. Okay, agreed. But all of the solutions I was finding were like chatbots and robo-dialers and auto this and auto that. It was just replacing the human aspect. We are so high touch that's why people hire us. is for the results that we drive because we are so high touch. It's really about creating intentional strategy that's not that like shotgun approach. Spray and pray is what they call it, right?
Yes.
That's not what we do. We get really, really targeted. And now with these tools, and oh boy, have we vetted tools. We've spent a lot of time making all the mistakes so that we can make sure that we are using the best of the best. And we are constantly innovating. We are constantly working with the developers to continue to improve. Because that's the other thing about AI is it improves faster than we can blink, and it's a whole new iteration.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I get marketed and sold to all of the time. And, I just like have one of those, I'm in one of those industries where everyone's trying to sell me something, right? So it's great though. I like to see all of the different pitches and the way that they come through. But I want to talk about something that's actually really important, regardless if you use Jennifer's company, another company, or do this on your own, is the ability to know if you are calling on the right person with the highest intent is so incredibly mission critical, because wasted energy in the sales process or wasted effort makes you an activity machine, not an outcome machine. And it can cause major, major problems. So discernment to know when to stop following up or that's not a good fit is actually really important. So discernment in the sales process and energy conservation is what allows us to be high performers.
Okay, so let me ask you then, because I think we may have different answers here and I'm super curious. What for you, what's like, where do you say, okay, we're done here? Is it times of outreach? Is it the amount of time between connection? What does that look like?
So do you want my opinion on booking the initial call, or you've already had a call with somebody and you're trying to negotiate afterwards?
Michelle, I want both. You give it all, because I'm super curious, because I'll tell you what we do, but I'd love to hear your take on this.
Yeah. So for me, what I will focus on is the post-sales follow-up. And I'm going to let you give us best practice of your expertise on booking the sales call. So what I have found is when you have a call with someone, and if you are great at discovery, which means that you have a thorough conversation, you know everything that makes them tick, from the timeline that they need a problem solved, from the exact problem that they have, the pain points, things that they've tried, their budget, what drives it. This is a full conversation. And if you feel like after that call that this is a option for you to sell to, you have to do what I call a micro commitment. And the micro commitment actually is the discernment in the follow-up. So I'll explain what that means. So for example, a micro commitment, really simple one, is to book the next call based on the sales process. Okay. So perhaps there is another decision maker that needs the follow-up call. So your micro commitment in the sales process is that you have booked that secondary call. Okay. Let's say, for example, they cancel the secondary call. Okay. That happens to everybody. All right. So if you've been selling long enough, you know that this happens. So you have decided that they are a very qualified lead. They have a decision maker arm that needs to be involved in the next step. So in my head, this one is worth pursuing to get back onto the calendar. Right. So how will I get them back on the calendar? And I always say, make your follow-up about the other person, not your quota, not your time frame, not your financial pressures. If you put too much and follow up, then it's a freaking disaster. So, but if you did discovery properly, you should be able to follow up with that initial person and say, hey, John, I know it was a priority for you to XXX by X date, but I see that you canceled the call. Are you opposed to putting it back on the calendar? Question mark. What that will tell me is that response will tell me if we're still serious and we're still moving forward. And you'll notice at the end, I did like a negative spin, meaning are you opposed? Because people naturally want to say no. So if no's actually equal yeses, it will psychologically move them through the sales process. So instead of saying, would you like to book another call? And they say no, then that's a real no, right? But if the way I asked it is if you're opposed to, and then they still say no, because that's what they want to say, it's actually a yes. So those are some of the hacks that I like. But in in that scenario, I would press for probably 2 to 3 weeks to get that second meeting back on. And it's really nuanced for me because I have to understand like what kind of replies I get, if I'm getting ghosted or just pushed to a side, kind of like depends. So I'd say 2 or 3 weeks of good solid effort. And then if it flops, it flops. And what I do is put people into long-term nurture that I've had a call with that maybe the timing was off. They didn't tell me the whole truth, all of the things, so that I stay in their orbit. And I actually had somebody come back after 3 years. I helped them build a business 3 years ago. They loved it. They were like all about it. And then they lost interest in it. So it was just like that happens with people who have multiple passions. So she put it to the side. She actually went and got like a 9-to-5 job. She felt like she needed a break and she's like, okay, I'm done. I'm coming back. And I was her first call and already signed up to be my client. And the reason why this is important is that I stayed top of mind. She's on my email list. She follows me on social media. There is a strategy behind this. And I think it's really, really important. So that's my very long-winded conversation about post-sales follow-up. But I want you to actually speak to what it looks like to actually get the initial meeting.
I will absolutely talk about that. I also want to mention with the post-sales follow-up, it's very important in any part of your sales cycle that you learn to not take things personally. When someone cancels a meeting or pushes a meeting, it very rarely has anything to do with you or your service or their interest level in your service. People have a lot of things going on. And while I certainly want things done on my timeline, in the last month alone, I'll share with you, I've had a prospect who had a family medical emergency that took him out. I had one that they just pushed by 2 weeks. It wasn't like a matter of like yes or no. It was just like a not now. I had someone who had a financial thing happen outside of their business that they had to take care of that affected the way they could invest in their business, because we were working with some entrepreneurs that are kind of like in that gray area, right? Things rarely have anything to do with us, but when we hear rejection or a not now or whatever, we make it about us. And I just want to encourage you all to realize that it probably isn't about you. But the way I find out is I'll say, look, I know there's a lot going on right now. If you feel ghosted, is I'll say, if now's not the right time, cool. When would be an ideal time for us to circle back? And then they've told you. So when you reach back out in that timeline, you guys, sometimes someone will say Tuesday, and then sometimes someone will say in 6 months. But at least they've set the timeline for you, and then you're not pushing anyone at all. You're just coming to an agreement about when you're going to reconnect. It's not salesy. It's just people have stuff going on, right? Okay. In the prospecting strategy, I think after 90 days of no response, you take them off. For our clients, we do that after 60 days. And that's just because of the amount of leads for us to reach out to. There's so many, but in my own business, I'll do it for 90 because it's an internal process. But when it's the done for you, we do 60 days. In 60 days, that is about 12 outreaches. And if someone can't reply to you after 8 voicemails and 4 emails and a LinkedIn message here or there, whatever's going on with them, again, that's about them, not you. But that's the other thing I want to say. You have to make sure to not attach your worthiness with the way someone treats you, right? You guys, there's a lot of people out there who want to treat you poorly to make themselves feel more important, or like they're busy and I speak with people that are in all stages of their financial life cycle of their business. I speak with people who are, in the mid 6 figures, and I speak with people who are 8 figures and beyond in their business. Someone replying to me is about how professional they are. So if someone is not replying to you, it's not because, oh, they don't need me, or, oh, they're too successful for me. It's not. And if someone makes you feel that way, just take them off your list. Like, those are not the kind of people you want to work with anyway. So they're doing you a favor by opting out, and that clears your space to spend more time with people who will return a phone call. I have some of the most successful people return my phone call within 24, 48 hours because they know I've got something valuable. People have their own stuff, and don't let it determine, your commitment to educating them about how you can help them.
Yeah. So, what's interesting is I've always been really good about that in business, but not so great in my personal life. So I recently had an issue with someone who I thought was my friend who clearly was not. And another one of my friends said, you should read The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And as we're talking right now, I'm like, if you struggle with it personally or professionally, it's actually a really good application. And it was everyone knows it as the Let Them Theory, but there's the Let Me in there too. So everyone should go and read it, because at the end of the day, the responsibility is back on you of how you decide to either nurture that relationship or to let it go. And right now, I just kind of feel like there's a lot of parallels in business for what we're talking about right now. But so if you struggle with that, I would suggest go read that book. Wouldn't you? Have you read it?
I've read it, and I would agree. I think I've been kind of doing that. I learned this through the 4 agreements.
Yes. Also really good.
Don't take it personally. Be impeccable with your word. And so for me, I know how I show up, and I know my intention in the way I show up, and I can't control someone's response, someone's reaction.
Yes. Just in case anyone hasn't read the 4 agreements, can you tell us what the 4 agreements are?
Okay. So it's don't take anything personally. Be impeccable with your word. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. And that is personally and professionally, you guys. It is so important to me. If I tell my kid that I'm going to do something, it's happening. And if it doesn't happen, there's a real good reason. But that's it's like how to live your life, how to be, right? Don't make assumptions, right? Don't make up a story as to why someone's not calling you back. Don't create stories, and then always do your best. These are agreements, again, these are personal agreements. These are professional agreements. This is just how to show up every day. And if you show up in those ways, then you can let go of someone's response because you know that you did your best. You know that you didn't take it personally. You know it's not about you. You know, you did what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. So those are the things, like, it doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't sting.
You know what the biggest one out of the 4 agreements, do what you say you're going to do, in my opinion, is the most powerful out of all 4 of them. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen people not follow through in their word, especially in the business world. And that is like business suicide. And I always say, don't commit to more than you can do, because that's also really bad. And I've noticed a lot of people, like, they try to people please in the process or something, like, oh, I'll do that. I can do that too. And I can do this. And I do this. And then you can't do any of it. And you look like a dummy when somebody actually works with you. So only say what you actually can do and then do it. Seems simple, but it's not, right, Jennifer? So many people miss that.
No, and I think a lot of that really has to go with people's, like, the over-deliver, the need to over-promise is, like, again, back to, like, worthiness. They don't have enough confidence in the offer. If you really try to go into the under-promise, over-deliver, you are in a much better position. And I think also to look at, and I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but looking at values-based pricing rather than trading time for money. I think that's how you can also really set really clear boundaries and scope of work for yourself by having value-based.
Yes, I agree with you.
And I think that goes to a lot of people's money stories, right? That, like, they have to justify. And that's, again, nothing to do with you.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's really an important one. Like, as a fractional CRO, a lot of people will ask me, well, what do you charge hourly? And I was like, I have no clue. I've never done it by hour. I have never once ever sold anything by hour, with the exception of doing like one-off strategy calls, which I did do for a fee, and that would be like an hourly exchange. But other than that, never. And because it's outcome driven. And if somebody asks me who's interested in working with me, how much I charge per hour, and I tell them my answer, and if they don't like it, then I'm like, we're not a good fit, because I know what this is going to turn into. And I don't want that type of environment, right? So I feel like it's really, really powerful to have that value-based outcome-driven formula. Absolutely. All right, Rascals, let me ask you this. How much money have you wasted replacing shoes, sneakers, or even bags that could have lasted way longer if only you'd been taken better care of them? I know for me, running from meetings to kids' activities, life gets messy fast. And that's why I always have Jason Mark Quick Wipes on hand. Jason Mark is trusted care to help you get the most out of what you wear. They're not just about cleaning. They're about protecting what you love while protecting the planet. Their wipes are now 100% plant-based and plastic-free, made from renewable lyocell fibers. They're individually wrapped so you can toss them in your bag, your car, or like me, your kids' backpacks. And it's not just convenience. Jason Mark is part of the worldwide B Corp movement, meeting the highest standards for social and environmental impact. They're EPA Safer Choice certified, so you know the formulas are safe for your family. And their products are USDA, bio-based, and certified biodegradable. That means no harmful junk like PFAS or VOCs. Just high-performance care that keeps your stuff looking fresh while doing right by the planet. Personally, as a busy mom and entrepreneur, Quick Wipes are my favorite. They've saved my sneakers from coffee spills, playground dust, you name it. One wipe and I'm ready to walk into my next meeting looking sharp. So here's the deal. Go to jasonmark.com and use promo code RevenueRascals at checkout for 25% off your order. One time per customer. Again, that's jasonmark.com, code RevenueRascals. And remember, this podcast is free thanks to sponsors like Jason Mark. I'm ungating sales strategies people pay me six figures for. So go support them, grab your Quick Wipes or your favorite product, and keep your kicks looking fresh. Okay, so we have one other area to cover before we start asking some other fun questions, and that would be social media for your lead finder. And what I love about social media is there's multiple ways you can do this. You can double tap on social selling and you can DM people, you can engage in the comments, you can email them based on, who you think's a good fit from your social media. You can go into groups. But one thing that I want to talk about is, listen, when you post content and you don't get 300 comments, please don't think that it was a failure, because I'm going to share right now that my social media content, if you go, I think it has moderate engagement. I would say moderate, right? But I will tell you, every single client that I have ever worked with during a sales call will cite a post that drove them to book the call. And they were never commenting, rarely liking. I would just call them like the lurkers. So it depends on who you sell to. Certain personas, ICPs, are not engaging in your content. They're quietly watching it. And I think that this is a really powerful thing. And I love social media for selling. Love it, love, love. Jennifer, how do you use social media in your outreach process? I think I heard you mention something about LinkedIn.
Yeah, well, I think that what you're talking about is don't focus on vanity metrics, right? If you focus on things like impressions or traffic or likes or even comments, all you need to worry about is conversion.
Yes.
So, those vanity metrics are what maybe an agency might tell you is important that you need, but it's really not. You need to make sure that you are speaking to your ICP instead of talking to everyone and trying to be everything to everyone. I love the idea of talking to one person and posting it on a social media platform. But you are talking to one person that is your ideal. So when you create that thought leadership, that content, it's really about what you would want to say to them individually. Social media for us is something that we've kind of gone back and forth on. It's been a bit of a, redheaded stepchild here because we get busy and we back off of it. But here's what I can tell you. We all delegate where we can. So I'll get real with you. When I have a team member do my social media versus when I do it, when I have them create content versus when I give them content, there is no question when you look at analytics, what's being seen and what's being responded to.
Yeah.
Where the engagement is. You have to show up. When you look at social media and you can see what ChatGPT wrote, it's like this is what it is. And it's this and this and this, not this or this. Or it's like these formulaic posts with the M dashes and the emojis. And it's so soulless.
It's distracting is what I think it is. Distracting.
I think less is more. This is probably not going to be super popular, but I'll say it anyway. The shorter the posts, usually the better.
I see that a lot.
You know, people don't need to read these like manifestos every day. Enough. There's other places for that, but like on social, like just keep it not light, but keep it brief because they're scrolling anyway. So if you spend all that time, what a waste. I want someone when they see me on LinkedIn or wherever, I want them to have the same experience with me that they're having right now.
Yes, absolutely.
That they're having on their website, they're having a sales call, or that they're having when we sit down over a glass of wine.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, or two, right? Oh my God, I love it. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. You know what's interesting is I also think it has a lot to do with your brand because for me, all of my short posts get 0 engagement. My long, like heartfelt ones are the ones that go through the roof. And so I feel like it also depends on what people look to you as a service provider or an inspiration or how they connect with your brand. And I don't have the right answer for this. I'm not a social media expert, right? But I think that you have to play around with formats to see what actually feels super good for you. I had a newsletter for, maybe like 18 months. It was growing. It was doing things. I was making a little bit of money off of it, but I felt super disconnected from my people in that medium. So that was actually a reason why I wanted to do my podcast is the same reason you just said, and then people feel like they're having some wine with you or whatever it is. For me, this feels so much more intimate and interesting and more on brand for me. And so this is what's performing, which is fantastic. So I think it's a bit of like an A/B testing game for you and your brand and your preferences. I have also tried to be really funny and like copy some of the trends and they fall flat on their head because people don't come to me for comedy.
I do.
And I'm like, I think that was really funny. But what I'm saying is like the mental attachment to me and my brand is not comedic relief. So I just was like dying when I was like looking at analytics the other day. So anyway, okay, we have dropped so much value of where you can go and find leads right underneath your nose. So we will make sure that the link to get the lead finder is in the show notes. So everybody, your challenge is to comb through all of these options and build yourself a beautiful list. And if you get to the point where you build the list and you're like, I don't think I can do this on my own, then I hope you book a call with Jennifer to see if her and her team are the right fit for you. And we'll make sure all of that is in the show notes. But before we leave, Jennifer, I asked this to all of my guests. What is the most rascal thing that you have ever done in business?
I mean, I think probably the way we deliver for our clients, right? Because no one else delivers consultatively. The way we reach out is we don't call from revenue rascals pitching and selling you. We call from appreciated asset recommending you. No one else delivers like this, but it never occurred to me to do it any other way. So I didn't do this to be a rascal. I did it because it's what made the most sense to me. It was the most transparent and aligned. Why would I pretend to work for someone else? But it's also our biggest differentiator. And it's our biggest, I think it's one of the things that makes us most effective because we didn't do it for the sake of disruption, which is what we talk about a lot. We did it because it just made sense, even though no one else does it that way.
Yeah. I mean, when you're a rascal, you look at this actually works. I don't have to do it the way that other people do just because everybody's been doing it, right? So even though maybe you didn't intend to be a disruptor, you certainly did do it. And that is the rascal way. So with that being said, everyone, until next time, stay rascal. Thanks for listening to Revenue Rascals, where we turn bold ideas into predictable revenue and prove that breaking the rules can still build empires. If you love what you heard, do me a favor. Tap the links in the show notes to support our sponsors. They're the ones keeping this show free so I can keep ungating the six-figure strategies that help you scale faster, lead smarter, and take more freedom home with you. And hey, if you think you'd make an incredible guest or know someone who's built something worth studying, email me at hello@michelleterpstra.com. And until next time, stay sharp, stay bold, and stay just a little bit rascal.